The silent departure. The galaxy had always whispered about Earth. For centuries, humans had been the unpredictable species, the ones who could turn defeat into victory, who could bend impossible odds, and who never truly surrendered. But now, for the first time in history, the whispers changed. The humans were gone. It started quietly. Outposts on the edges of human space stopped answering. Trading stations closed their doors overnight. Colonies once full of life turned dark, as if every human had vanished into thin air. At first, the Galactic Council believed it was a trick, another strange tactic humans used to confuse their rivals. But when entire fleets stopped transmitting, when Earth itself sent no signals, silence spread like a shadow across the stars. The Council met. In their great chamber, a colossal dome filled with representatives from every known empire. Their voices echoed in panic. "The humans are gone," one reptilian delegate hissed. "Impossible," replied another, his long tendrils twitching. "Humans do not simply leave." But the records were clear. No transmissions, no patrols, no movement of ships. Some celebrated. Species that had once lived in fear of human retaliation cheered in their halls. To them, this was freedom. The nightmare was finally over. For centuries, they had feared the human war cry, the human stubbornness that no empire could ever crush. Without humans, the galaxy felt safer, and yet not everyone was convinced. Young officer of the Veari fleet, Kalen, watched the empty charts of human space. The stars that once glowed with human activity now looked dead and silent. He felt unease gnawing at him. This was not how humans behaved. They fought until their last breath. They resisted until the very end. To simply vanish. It did not make sense. He whispered to his superior, "Commander, what if this is not abandonment? What if it is preparation?" His commander laughed coldly. "Do not give them too much credit. Perhaps their wars finally consumed them. Perhaps they destroyed themselves." But Kalen could not shake the feeling that something deeper was hidden in that silence. He had studied human history. Every time the galaxy thought they were beaten, humans returned stronger. They never accepted extinction. Their resilience was not just survival, it was their weapon. Rumors began to spread. Miners at the edge of Orion claimed to see strange movements in the void. Merchant captains swore that dark shapes followed their ships, silent and unseen. Some spoke of hearing human voices in empty corridors, whispers carried through broken radios. The Council dismissed these as superstition. Yet fear lingered, quiet but steady. One elder alien, older than most star systems, raised a warning in the Council chamber. "You laugh at their silence," he said slowly, his voice shaking. "But I remember the old wars. When humans go quiet, it is never because they are gone. It is because they are waiting." The chamber fell silent. No one dared to respond. Across the galaxy, monuments that once stood to honor human victories were left to gather dust. Alien rulers declared the age of humanity finished. But in the shadows of abandoned human cities, something stirred. Great machines still hummed beneath the surface. Satellites still orbited, silent but functional. The humans had left, but they had not destroyed their tools. Kalen could not sleep. He looked again and again at the maps of human space. A pattern seemed to form. It was not random. It was almost as if the humans had pulled back deliberately, like soldiers leaving the battlefield in perfect order. He felt a chill run through him. "They are not gone," he whispered to himself. "They are watching." The galaxy did not know it yet, but the day humanity departed was not the day of peace. It was the beginning of fear. For the silence of Earth was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence before something greater, something far more terrifying than war. And somewhere in the endless dark between stars, unseen eyes opened once more. Whispers in the void. The galaxy thought the silence of Earth meant freedom, but freedom quickly turned into unease. At first it was small things, A convoy of merchant ships disappeared near the abandoned human colonies. No distress calls, no wreckage, only empty space left behind. A patrol fleet sent to investigate returned, half its ships missing, the survivors speaking of shadows that swallowed them whole. The council dismissed these as accidents. Pirates, they said. Malfunction, they said. But deep inside, they knew. The galaxy had lived too long under the human shadow to believe in simple accidents. Kalen, the young Vayari officer, sat alone in his quarters staring at the reports. The same words kept appearing. Vanished, lost, silence. He remembered the elders' warning in the council. Humans never left without reason. One night, his ship received a broken transmission. Static filled the air, but through it came a faint voice. "They're still here," the voice whispered. "They never left." The transmission cut out. No source could be traced. Stories spread like wildfire. On the mining stations at the edge of Sagittarius, workers claimed to see massive silhouettes drifting past the stars, giant ships darker than the void itself. They emitted no signal, no engine heat, and no light. But every time they appeared, someone went missing. In the trade lanes, captains began avoiding human space altogether. They said that if you traveled too close, your ship systems would flicker, and your crew would hear voices, human voices calling your name through the comms. Some swore they saw human figures standing outside their ships, floating in the vacuum, eyes glowing faintly blue. The council tried to silence the rumors. Fear spreads faster than truth, one delegate said. But fear was not empty. Something was happening and no one could explain it. The first confirmed incident shook the galaxy. An entire fleet of the Zalar Dominion vanished while patrolling the Orion corridor. Hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers, gone. Only one vessel drifted back days later. Its crew was alive, but broken. Their minds shattered. They whispered the same phrase over and over. "The departed have returned." Kalen read the reports with trembling hands. If this was true, it meant the silence was not abandonment. It was warning. Humanity had stepped back, only to prepare for something larger. But why? What did they want? The council grew desperate. They launched probes into human space. None returned. They sent ambassadors with messages of peace. The ships disappeared, leaving no trace. The galaxy had always feared humans when they were present. Now they feared them even more in absence. It was as if the void itself had taken their place, a silence so heavy that every empire felt it pressing on their skin. In the grand markets of the capital worlds, children whispered ghost stories of humans with black armor and unseen weapons. In the prisons, criminals swore they heard human footsteps outside their cells at night. Even in the farthest reaches where no human had ever set foot, shadows moved in ways they should not. Kalen met secretly with the elder who had spoken before. The old alien's eyes were tired but sharp. "You see it too, don't you?" the elder asked. Kalen nodded. "They are still here. But why hide? Why not attack openly?" The elder's mouth curled into something between fear and respect. "Because fear is stronger than war. A single battle can be won or lost, but fear makes the enemy surrender without fighting." The words struck Kalen deeply. He thought of the missing fleets, the drifting ships, the silent colonies. He realized the humans were not destroying. They were reminding. The galaxy had mocked their departure, but now every empire wondered when the shadows would come for them. The council called it superstition. But Kalen knew. Somewhere in the dark, the humans were watching. Somewhere, they had built something greater than anyone could imagine. And as the whispers grew, so did the fear. The silence of humans had become louder than any war cry. The council's fear. The Grand Council chamber was full. Lights were dim. Screens showed maps of the galaxy with wide, empty circles over human space. Red markers blinked where fleets had gone missing. No one spoke at first. Even the air felt heavy. The speaker finally raised his hand. "We need facts, not rumors." An officer stepped forward. It was Kalen of the Vayari fleet. He looked calm, but his fingers were tight around a small data slate. He said, "I have studied every report from the last 30 days. The disappearances follow a pattern." He tapped the screen. Lines lit up across the star map. Not random. They follow old human trade lanes and evacuation routes. Someone is walking us backward through human history. A murmur ran through the chamber. A Zaylor admiral slammed his fist on the rail. So what? We send warships. We burn their empty worlds. We show strength. Kalen shook his head. They are not meeting strength. They are shaping fear. They do not attack openly. They enter. They turn off weapons. They leave. Ships return unharmed but broken. Crew say the same words. The departed have returned. Tricks, the admiral said, but his voice had lost some force. Another delegate stood. She wore silver bands of a trade alliance. Yesterday, our embassy ship came back on autopilot. The entire crew was asleep in their chairs. No injuries, no damage, only a message on the bridge. She lifted a thin crystal. It said, "We will not talk where you can listen." Silence again. Everyone understood what that meant. The humans, if it was them, did not trust the council's ears. The elder who had warned them before rose slowly. "We forget who they are," he said. "We forget they were the ones who built cities on dead worlds and made them sing. We forget they were the ones who survived every storm. They do not show force to win. They show resolve to end the need for force." Kalen added, "Look at the incident files." He pulled up simple tables. Weapons disabled, not destroyed. Life support left running. Engines cut, but gravity kept stable. In every case, lives were spared. A thin member from a border kingdom whispered, "Mercy." He sounded afraid of the word. "Control," Kalen replied. "They choose what stops and what continues. That is worse for us than a battle." Outside the chamber, crowds pressed against the glass balconies of the government ring. Broadcasts ran on every wall. Traders yelled that their lanes were cursed. Families begged leaders to move the capital to a safer star. Pilots sold charms against human ghosts. Children played a new game. They stood in the dark and tried not to move, calling it being human. Inside, the council split into two sides. One side wanted an armada raised at once. The other asked for talks, or at least a pause. No one trusted anyone. Old rivalries woke up. Accusations flew. Your spies helped them. Your ships ran first. Kalen stood still and watched leaders turn on each other. He felt a cold thought grow. This is part of it. Humans did not need to fire a shot if the council tore itself apart. The elder touched Kalen's arm. "Come," he said. "There is something you must see." He led him through a side door into a small archive room. Old air, old metal. The elder keyed a lock and slid out a black case with human letters burned into it. "What is this?" Kalen asked. "Records from before my time," the elder said. "A copy of a human doctrine taken during the border wars. Few here have. Read it." He pressed the case. A short film, fuzzy and gray, played in the air. It showed a small human briefing room. Simple uniforms, calm faces. A phrase lined the wall. "Win before war begins." Kalen watched as a human officer outlined quiet. Steps make the enemy doubt their senses. Break their plans without breaking their bones. Show them a door out and make them walk through it by choice. "We will be the question in their minds," the officer said, "so they answer with restraint." The film ended. The room felt colder. Kalen swallowed. "They are doing it now," the elder nodded. "And they learned from us too. We hunted them once. We cornered them. We forced them to fight for every inch. They remembered." A chime rang. Emergency alert. Both hurried back into the chamber. The screens had switched to a live feed from the defense ring that circled the capital world. Dots, weapon platforms, blinked green around the planet. One by one, the dots went gray. "Report," the speaker cried. A defense officer spoke over. Static. Sir, our platforms are going, not offline. Quiet. System still alive. Guns not responding. We still have air, gravity, power. We just cannot shoot. Find the source, someone shouted. The feed zoomed out. A patch of darkness slid across the starfield. It was not a ship in the normal sense. It was a shadow with edges, barely there, like a heat ripple in space. It passed the ring without sound, no signals, no light. Yet everything it touched went. Silent messages flashed on every console in the chamber. Short, plain, in a dozen languages, in the human tongue too. Remember who started the fires. A chill moved through the room like wind through grass. The words were not a threat. They were a mirror. The Xyler Admiral screamed, "This is an attack." "Is it?" the elder asked softly. "We still breathe. Our cities still stand. This is not conquest, it is judgment." On the balcony, the crowd looked up at their bright sky. For a moment, day dimmed as if a cloud crossed the sun. Then light returned. Birds kept flying. Traffic kept moving. But people stared at the sky and did not blink. Kalen's slate buzzed. A private message. No sender. He opened it with a code. No one else knew. 3 words appeared, "Do not escalate." His heart thumped. He looked around, but no one else reacted. The message dissolved on its own. He turned to the elder. "Someone is inside our nets." "Not someone," the elder said. "Something we taught to be clever by trying to cage it." The speaker's voice shook. "We must speak with them at once." "How?" the admiral snapped. "They ignore us." Kalen thought of the embassy ship that came home sleeping, of the simple line, "We will not talk where you can listen." He drew a slow breath. "Then we go where we cannot listen. No public nets. No council ears. One ship. No weapons. Madness," the admiral said. "It is the only path that is not war," Kalen answered. The chamber argued again, louder than before. But as they shouted, the defense map on the high screen flickered. For a second, a new shape appeared in the outer system. Huge, dark, not one ship, many. Formations like a storm front. Then it was gone. Everyone had seen it. No one could deny it. Fear settled into a hard, heavy truth. The day humans departed had not pulled danger away. It had pulled masks away. The galaxy now saw itself. Proud, divided, unprepared. The speaker lowered his head. "Prepare a meeting," he said. "Quiet. Off the record." Kalen felt the room's weight shift toward him. The elder's hand rested on his shoulder for a moment, warm and steady. Above the capital, the sky stayed clear. But every sensor operator swore they could feel a low, steady hum, like a voice just beyond hearing, waiting for the right ear. And in the void, beyond the last line of defense, something vast took position and chose patience over fire. It did not need to be seen to change everything. It only needed to be there. The shadow fleet. The whispers had become storms. Entire sectors spoke of shapes moving in the void, too large to be ships, too quiet to be accidents. The council tried to cover the news, but no one believed their speeches anymore. Fear had spread faster than law. On the capital world, citizens stopped celebrating the humans' absence. Instead, they watched the skies with unease, wondering if silence itself had teeth. Traders refused to enter certain corridors of space. War fleets stayed close to home. Even the most powerful empires began to admit it. Something was out there. Kalen sat in the council's small war room, eyes fixed on the new feed. This time, it wasn't rumor. It wasn't a frightened miner telling ghost stories. It was real. The feed came from a scout drone. It had entered the dead zones of former human space. At first, there was nothing, just the dark, starless void. Then the picture flickered. Shadows moved, blotting out starlight, shapes vast and unnatural. The drone's instruments tried to scan them, but every system went blind. One by one, massive silhouettes slid into view. They were ships, yes, but nothing like the galaxy had ever seen. Their hulls seemed to drink light, not reflect it. Their edges were sharp, jagged, yet graceful, as if designed not by engineers but by the void itself. There were no markings, no signals, no lights. Only silence. Someone whispered in the war room. Shadow Fleet. The name stuck instantly. The drone's feed ended in static. But before it died, a single human voice broke through. Calm, cold. Only 3 words. We are watching. The council chamber exploded into chaos when the recording was shown. Delegates shouted. Armies were ordered to move. But deep inside, no one wanted to fight. They had seen the size of those ships. They had felt the silence that clung to them. Kalen stayed quiet. He remembered the elder's words. Humans did not need to fight if fear itself bent their enemies. And now fear was bending entire civilizations. Across the galaxy, strange events multiplied. On a fortress world, every defense gun turned downward for exactly 1 hour, without command. On a trade hub, the central power grid shut down, yet life support stayed stable, as if someone had politely turned off the lights. In deep space, an entire pirate fleet surrendered to no one. Their leader transmitted a single message before disappearing. We saw their eyes in the dark. We will not fight them. The council tried to deny the reports, but denial failed when one night the Shadow Fleet appeared on the edges of 3 different empires at once, not attacking, not firing, just hovering. Their presence was enough. Whole planets demanded surrender before a single shot was fired. Kalen's commander, desperate to prove strength, ordered their own fleet toward the edge of human space. Hundreds of ships formed into battle lines, weapons charged, ready to confront the shadows. Kalen stood on the bridge, his stomach tight. When the humans came, they came without warning. No jump signature. No signal. One moment, the void was empty. The next, the fleet was there. Thousands of shadow ships surrounding them in perfect silence. Their sheer size dwarfed the Vayari vessels. Alarms screamed, weapons locked. But before a single trigger could be pulled, every system went dark. Not destroyed, just muted. Engines still hummed, lights still burned, but weapons refused to answer, shields stayed down, and communications filled with nothing but static. On the Vayari bridge, officers panicked. "They've disabled us," someone shouted. "No," Kalen said quietly. "They've allowed us to live." Through the viewports, he saw the shadow ships move. They did not fire. They simply drifted closer, circling, each one larger than cities. And as they passed, Kalen swore he could see faint lights, human eyes behind black glass watching, judging. Then, as suddenly as they had arrived, the Shadow Fleet was gone. The Vayari ships blinked back to life, weapons online, engines ready. No one dared touch them. The commander sat pale in his chair, unable to speak. The council received the report within hours. For the first time in history, no one argued. No one called for war. No one claimed victory. The galaxy knew. Humans had not left because they were weak. They had left because they had grown stronger than anyone could imagine. Kalen stood alone after the meeting, staring at the star maps. The galaxy was vast, but suddenly it felt small. The Shadow Fleet could be anywhere, at any time. And the humans, silent and unseen, had chosen patience over firepower. He whispered to himself, "They are not just a species anymore. They are a storm." And across the stars, every world waited in fear for the moment the silence would finally break. The return of humanity, the galaxy waited. Every empire had seen the Shadow Fleet. Every world whispered the same fear. Humanity had not vanished. They had stepped beyond reach and returned as something else, something the galaxy could not understand. The council chamber sat in silence. Leaders who once shouted now sat pale and quiet, their eyes fixed on the giant screen at the center of the dome. A transmission had just arrived. No source could be traced, no ship identified, no signal detected until it appeared directly on their systems. The screen flickered. For a long moment, only static. Then, a figure emerged. A human. He was not armored, not dressed for war. He wore simple black with a calm face that looked almost ordinary. But his eyes, they carried the weight of centuries, steady and unblinking. Behind him, shadows moved, colossal ships quiet and still, like mountains adrift in space. Gasps filled the chamber the human spoke. His voice was low, controlled, and yet it carried to every corner of the dome as if the air itself wanted to spread his words. "You feared our presence," he said. "Now you fear our absence." And both fears were correct. No one dared interrupt. The man continued. "When we walked among you, you mocked our stubbornness. You called us reckless, you thought us fragile, and still we endured every war, every betrayal, every storm. You never understood." His eyes narrowed. Resilience is not fragility, it is warning. The chamber was still. Some delegates trembled. Others bowed their heads. "We left because we learned," the human said. "Learned that councils talk but never listen. Learned that wars never end, only repeat. So we departed, not to flee but to grow. While you fought each other, we built. While you doubted, we prepared. While you celebrated our silence, we watched." The screens behind him shifted. Images appeared. Colossal cities hidden beneath abandoned colonies. Silent shipyards orbiting dead stars. Entire fleets rising from the void like shadows made solid. Proof that humanity had never been gone, only unseen. Kalen felt his breath catch. The elder beside him whispered. They turned absence into strength. The human raised his hand and the images faded back into darkness. "We return not as neighbors," he said, "but as judgment. We will not rule you. We will not conquer you, but we will remind you. Your power is borrowed. Your pride is fragile. And your safety is only granted, not earned." The words were not shouted. They did not need to be. Each one fell like iron across the chamber. A trembling delegate rose, voice shaking. "What do you want from us?" The human's eyes met hers. Calm, cold, final. "Nothing," he said. "That is what you never understood. We do not need what you have. We only need you to remember." The screen went black. For a long moment, no one breathed. The silence of the chamber mirrored the silence of the humans themselves. Heavy, inevitable, inescapable. Then alarms blared across the council's defense grid. Sensors screamed. Dozens of signatures detected. The Shadow Fleet had arrived in orbit above the council world itself. Through the dome's high windows, leaders looked up at the sky. The bright daylight dimmed as shapes passed overhead, vast ships blotting out the sun. They moved without sound, without fire, without violence. They only hovered, waiting, watching. The council did not order weapons to be fired. They knew it would be useless. Kalen stood frozen, staring at the sky. For years he had studied humanity, wondered about their choices, questioned their silence. Now he understood. Humans had not vanished because they were weak. They had vanished because they had outgrown the galaxy's games. The elder beside him whispered, "This is not invasion. This is memory. They want us to live knowing they can return at any time." Kalen nodded slowly. His chest felt tight. Fear is their message, and it has been delivered. The Shadow Fleet lingered above the capital for one full day. No words, no actions, only presence. And then, just as silently, they vanished into the void, leaving the stars clear once more. But the galaxy was no longer the same. Every empire, every world, every child who looked up at the sky would remember that day. The day the humans returned not as conquerors, but as shadows, stronger than any empire, more patient than any council, and more terrifying than any war. The galaxy had once feared humanity's anger. Now it feared something far worse, humanity's silence. Kalen stood on the balcony as the stars returned to normal. He whispered words no one else could hear. They departed once, but they never truly left. And now, the galaxy will never forget.